Welcome to Lead on the podcast for nonprofit leaders navigating change with intention. Brought to you by CNA. Social Impact Consulting, we explore what it really takes to lead with clarity, courage, and consistency in complex times. No binders, no buzzwords, just thoughtful conversations and practical guidance to help leaders and missions move forward. LeadOn is powered by Notebook LM and produced by CNA. Social Impact Consulting.
Wow, it's incredibly good to be here with you today. We definitely have a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. So let's kind of set the stage for you, because we know exactly what time of year it is right now. It's March.
Oh yeah, the thick of it.
Right. And if you are a nonprofit leader listening to this, you're deep in the trenches right now. You are trying to, meticulously plan out the rest of the year. You are fighting tooth and nail to protect your team's already stretched capacity.
And you're staring down some incredibly heavy expectations from funders.
Exactly. Funders who, let's be honest, they want to see impact yesterday, so the pressure is undeniably on.
And into that exact pressure cooker steps today's topic. We are doing a deep dive into a really, really timely source piece by Damon Colaluca from CNA. It's titled, What Nonprofit Leaders Should and Shouldn't Use AI For.
It's honestly a perfectly timed piece, because right now the noise around artificial intelligence is it's deafening.
It's everywhere.
It is. And for leaders, it's very easy to either just put your head in the sand and ignore it completely, or swing to the other extreme and jump in recklessly because you're just desperate for a lifeline.
Yeah, that desperation is real. And our mission today is to demystify AI for you. Yeah. We really want to separate the absolute hype from the on-the-ground reality of nonprofit operations and give you practical, actionable guardrails.
Guardrails are key here.
Because we want to make sure your excitement or, again, your sheer desperation for a little extra help doesn't turn into a headline you deeply regret later.
Which is a very real risk when we look at how quickly these tools are being adopted right now. It is. So let's actually start with a highly relatable anecdote from the source material. Imagine you're sitting in a leadership meeting. Everyone is stressed, the to-do list is miles long, nobody has had quite enough coffee, and someone chimes in and says, hey, we should just have ChatGPT write the foundation grant.
And at first, everyone chuckles.
Right.
It's the classic tension breaker in a stressed room.
Right, everyone laughs. But then they look around the table and suddenly realize, wait, it's actually not a joke anymore. It's a genuine stress response.
Yeah, when your team is just completely buried under paperwork and when hiring new staff feels virtually impossible because of tight budget constraints.
And those quarterly reporting deadlines are just looming over you like a dark cloud.
Exactly. Suddenly, AI stops looking like a sci-fi novelty and it starts looking like a miracle intern. An intern who never sleeps, never complains, and works for free.
Which is an incredibly tempting proposition. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Anyone would.
Yeah.
But here is the critical flaw in that miracle intern illusion. This intern starts making things up.
Right.
And it doesn't do it maliciously, like it's trying to actively sabotage your grant. It does it confidently. It hands you a completely fabricated piece of information or a fake statistic with the absolute certainty of a tenured professor.
It's like a confident but entirely underprepared college student bluffing their way through a final exam. They sound great, the sentences flow beautifully, but the actual substance is completely entirely made up.
That is a perfect analogy. And that brings us to the core thesis of Damon's piece.
Yeah.
AI is not a replacement for your professional judgment. It is simply a force multiplier for whatever system you already have in place.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is big. If you have a highly organized, well-oiled operational machine, AI can take that process and multiply your efficiency.
Right.
But if your current system is messy or disjointed and chaotic, throwing an AI tool at it isn't going to fix your organizational problems. It's just going to multiply that mess at lightning speed. You'll just generate the wrong things much, much faster.
Precisely. It scales your current reality. And this raises an important question. Why exactly does this intern make things up? Because understanding the why is the fundamental first step to actually using the tool responsibly.
It really is, because it's so easy to subconsciously think there's a tiny little brain inside the computer actually understanding what we ask it. We assume it's reasoning with us.
Right, but that's not it at all.
Not even close.
No, it fundamentally comes down to the stark difference between prediction and understanding. Generative AI does not understand the world. It doesn't comprehend the meaning of the words it generates, or the empathy required for your mission, or the context of your specific community.
Yeah.
It is, at its core, a prediction engine. It predicts what text should logically come next based on massive patterns that the data it was trained on.
It's essentially the world's most sophisticated version of autocomplete on your phone. It's literally just guessing the next word.
Exactly. And that predictive nature is exactly why it can write a beautifully formatted, emotionally resonant donor email in 20 seconds. It knows the mathematical pattern of what a good email looks like.
Wow, yeah.
But it's also why it can confidently cite a scientific study or a demographic statistic that does not actually exist. It doesn't know facts. It just predicts what a citation should look like in that specific paragraph.
That is a wild tension to hold as a leader. You have this tool that is undeniably useful, but it fundamentally doesn't know what is true and what is false.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this tension is exactly what the Stanford 2025 AI Index highlights. The index is a fantastic, big-picture snapshot mentioned in our sources. It helps us understand why AI adoption is accelerating so incredibly fast across all sectors right now.
Because the pressure is coming from everywhere, right?
Oh, absolutely. The pressure to adopt is coming from funders, board members, even your own staff. So leaders need to hold this tension of utility versus inaccuracy without getting overly dramatic or paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool, but its fundamental nature requires strict governance.
Governance, yes. And that brings us to how we actually use it day to day on the ground. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you are a team that is relatively new to AI, you might be tempted to use it for your biggest, most complex problems, like let's solve hunger in our city with ChatGPT.
Which is a terrible idea.
Right. The absolute golden rule of thumb from the source is the exact opposite. Do not start with high-stakes work. Start with high-drag work.
High drag is such a great way to frame it.
It really reframes the whole approach for me.
Yeah.
We were talking about the tasks that steal your time, that bog down your calendar, that make you dread opening your laptop on a Monday morning, but that don't actually require your soul or your deep institutional wisdom to complete. We need to embrace the boring.
Embrace the boring. I love that.
The source lays out 5 incredibly practical safe zones. These are the safest, highest value starting points for nonprofits. So let's walk through them because this is where the actual time savings live.
Sure. So first up is drafting and editing. This is a perfect starting point. We are talking about the initial rough drafts of job descriptions, event runner shows, board packet summaries, or even initial outlines of donor thank you notes.
Yeah, because the blank page is often the hardest, most intimidating part of the writing process.
Yeah.
And AI can eliminate that blank page in about 3 seconds.
Which is huge. Imagine it's Sunday night, you have a board meeting on Tuesday morning, and you need to summarize 3 different committee reports. Having AI give you a first draft gets you 60% of the way there immediately.
Right.
But, and this is a massive caveat that the source emphasizes, a human owner is always needed. You have to verify every single fact, and you have to tweak the tone so it actually sounds like an authentic human being from your organization, not a generic robot.
That human touch is completely non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The second safe zone is summarizing and extracting. You can take a messy, hour-long, 20-page transcript of meeting notes from a strategic planning retreat and have an AI turn it into clean, assigned action items.
Or you can feed it 500 open-ended survey comments from a community event and ask it to pull out the top 3 recurring themes. I think this might be where nonprofits can save the most hours, honestly.
Oh, without a doubt.
You can take a dense 12-page foundation report and ask the AI to distill it into a 1-page executive brief. But again, the rule applies. You need the actual program lead to read that 1-page brief and confirm, yes, this accurately reflects the nuance of the original 12 pages. It's an assistant. It is not a replacement for your program expertise.
It's entirely about accelerating the tedious part of comprehension.
Yes.
The third safe zone is brainstorming and outlining. Need campaign themes for an upcoming fundraiser, workshop agendas, maybe naming options for a new community initiative.
Or a list of initial interview questions for a new coordinator role. Use AI for all of that. AI really shines here because when you're brainstorming, especially late in the afternoon when your brain is just fried, you just need momentum. You don't necessarily need the perfect answer right out of the gate. You just need to get the gears turning and bounce ideas off something. It's a great thought partner in that way.
It really is. And that actually leads perfectly into another massive time sink for nonprofits, which is our 4th safe zone, translation and accessibility.
Oh, this is a big one.
Massive.
Because if you serve a diverse community, you know the struggle and the hard cost of translating complex program guidelines. You can use AI to draft plain language versions of complex legal or program info. You can create materials at different reading levels to ensure true accessibility for everyone you serve.
You can even use it for initial rough translations of content into other languages. But again, the governance rule holds firm here. You must always have a bilingual human validate that translation before it goes out into the community. Context, slang, idioms, and cultural nuance are very easily lost or mangled by predictive algorithms.
Absolutely. You really don't want to accidentally publish something offensive because the algorithm guessed the wrong phrasing.
Exactly. And finally, safe zone number 5, basic data cleanup. You can use AI to reformat those nightmare CSV files you export from a legacy CRM system. You can have it generate initial charts for a presentation, or even ask it to spot weird outliers in your dataset.
But human interpretation remains absolutely crucial here because in the nonprofit world, context is everything. An outlier in your data might just be a typo from a tired staff member, or it might be the single most important client success story of the entire year.
Right, and the AI doesn't know the difference. It just sees a statistical anomaly. What's fascinating here is that sector research actually confirms this step-by-step approach.
Really?
Yes, the data shows that nonprofits are already successfully using AI first for these exact areas: internal communications and productivity. It acts as the perfect, safe on-ramp. It provides immediate relief for exhausted teams without risking the organization's public reputation. It's low-risk productivity.
Which is exactly what leaders need to be aiming for right now. But of course, where there are safe zones, there is also a danger zone. And this is the tempting but highly toxic side of AI use that can get an organization into serious, serious trouble.
Yes, it can.
And I want to pause and be really clear here, framing this exactly how Damon does in the piece. When nonprofit leaders make bad choices with AI, it usually isn't born of recklessness or malice. It is almost always born of pure exhaustion.
That is such a vital distinction.
It's Friday at 4:30 p.m. A massive compliance report is due on Monday. The staff is running on fumes, and the AI shortcut is sitting right there on the screen, promising to do the work in 10 seconds.
It's a vulnerability born of burnout. But regardless of how tired you are, there are absolute hard boundaries that leaders must establish to protect the mission. The hard do-nots.
Let's hear them.
First and foremost, do not use AI as a decision maker.
Yes, it can support the gathering of information for a decision, it can summarize the data, but it cannot be the entity that makes the final call.
Exactly. It cannot decide program eligibility for a community member. It cannot be used to finalize HR actions, hiring decisions, or performance reviews. It absolutely should not be used for client risk scoring. Anywhere where being wrong causes real, tangible harm to a human being, AI cannot hold the gavel.
That makes total sense. The second hard, do not feed sensitive data into these tools. And this is a massive operational risk. Client information, donor data, protected health information, student records, internal financial projections, sensitive legal matters, keep it all out.
It's a huge privacy risk, and one that funders are increasingly asking about.
A good rule of thumb here is simple privacy math. If you cannot clearly explain to your board of directors exactly where the data goes, how long it is retained by the tech company, and who has access to it once you hit enter, do not put it in the prompt box.
That's a great rule. The third boundary is about relationship management. Do not outsource trust. While AI can draft an outline for you, it should never write the final polished donor communications, major grant narratives, or public statements without heavy, heavy human intervention.
Because in the nonprofit sector, authenticity isn't just a nice-to-have cultural trait. Authenticity is your core strategy. Nonprofits survive and thrive on relationships. If a major donor or a community partner sniffs out that they are receiving a generic robot-generated email from you, that trust is instantly broken.
A human must own the relationship, always.
Always.
And the final hard boundary ties right back to our earlier point about prediction versus understanding. Do not treat AI outputs as research. It is a great starting point to help you find avenues to explore, but it is not a primary source itself. If your team is relying on it for facts, you have to require citations and human verification every single time.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this right now and feeling a bit anxious about all these risks, know that you are in very good company. Nonprofit and foundation leaders consistently name security, accuracy, bias, and staff expertise as their absolute core concerns right now.
Which makes perfect sense. So we've talked about the safe zones and the danger zones.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you actually make that call in the moment? When a staff member comes to you with a new use case, how do you decide? Teams tend to wildly overcomplicate the question of should we use AI for this specific task.
They really do.
But Damon's piece introduces a brilliantly simple framework. It's so practical, it literally fits on a sticky note.
It's the RISK test. RISK. It cuts through all the dense technical jargon and gets right to the operational reality of running a nonprofit. I love how simple this is. You start with the R, which stands for reversibility.
Right.
Basically, if the AI hallucinates and gets it totally wrong, can I hit undo without anyone noticing? An internal memo to your team, highly reversible. A press release about a sensitive community issue, not reversible at all.
Exactly. And that ties directly into the I, which is impact. If the AI is wrong, who gets hurt and how badly? A typo in a private brainstorming document has zero impact. But a hallucinated eligibility requirement published on your public website could devastate a vulnerable family seeking your services.
That makes perfect sense. Then we have the S, which is sensitivity. This is just asking if the task involves confidential, proprietary, or regulated data. If you are summarizing an anonymous, publicly available industry report, sensitivity is extremely low.
Right.
But if you are trying to summarize case notes containing protected health information or domestic violence records, sensitivity is critically high and AI shouldn't touch it.
And finally, the K, knowledge requirement. This asks a deeply human question. Does the task require lived context, complex human judgment, ethical weighing, or delicate cultural nuance? AI has none of those things. It only has mathematical patterns.
So when you put it all together, the takeaway is beautifully clear. If a task is highly reversible, low impact, low sensitivity, and requires low judgment, AI is completely fine to use, provided there's a quick human review at the end.
Yep.
But if the opposite is true, if it's hard to reverse, high impact, highly sensitive, and requires deep nuance, AI can only be used to support the work inside a very strict process with total human accountability.
And for the leaders listening who want to ground this simple test in formal best practices, this sticky note framework is actually deeply rooted in heavy-duty compliance models. Specifically, it mirrors the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Oh, right.
They are the absolute gold standard for cybersecurity and tech compliance, but their actual published framework is incredibly dense. What the RISK test does is allow you to operationalize those heavy NIST principles daily without ever having to say the terrifying acronym NIST in a staff meeting and putting your entire team to sleep.
Nobody wants a lecture on NIST at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. They just need to know the practical rules. And that shifts our conversation to perhaps the most critical part of this entire deep dive, governance. Because most conversations around AI get completely stuck on the tools. Leaders ask, what tools should we use? Should we buy this software package or that enterprise license? And honestly, that is entirely the wrong question.
It really is. The tool is just the vehicle. McKinsey actually released some fascinating research on this. They found a massive, glaring gap between organizations that are just experimenting with AI and organizations that are actually achieving scaled, measurable value from it.
And what was the difference?
The bottleneck wasn't the availability of the software tools. It was governance, talent, and operating models.
Which is a huge relief, honestly.
Yeah.
In plain English, for nonprofits, you do not need a multi-million-dollar fancy AI initiative. You do not need to hire a prompt engineer. You just need clean rules and a grown-up process.
Exactly. Your real work as a leader is governance.
Yes.
You need a minimum viable AI policy, a simple one-page AI guardrails document that every single staff member actually reads and understands.
Because let's be real, nobody on your staff has the time or energy to read a 20-page technical manual. A one-pager taped to the monitor is what actually works in a busy nonprofit. So let's list out what needs to be on that single page.
Yeah.
It needs to cover approved tools. What specific programs are people actually allowed to use? Banned data categories. Explicitly stating in plain language that client, donor, HR, financial, and legal data are strictly off limits.
Yeah.
It needs human review rules. What specific outputs require a manager's sign-off before it goes out the door? And disclosure expectations. When and how do you explicitly tell a funder or partner that AI was used to help generate a document?
It also needs basic quality and bias controls. For example, if you are using AI to summarize incoming resumes or program applications, you need a process to check that the algorithm isn't disproportionately filtering out candidates from certain backgrounds due to historical biases in its training data.
That's incredibly important.
It must include that equity lens to ensure the tool is actually serving all your communities fairly. And finally, training requirements. Who needs to be trained and on what before they are given the login credentials to these tools?
That is a phenomenal practical blueprint. So instead of leaving you with a daunting checklist, let's rapid fire the immediate action steps you can take tomorrow morning. Damon gives a great list of practical things you can do right now to get ahead of this. Let's hear them.
Number 1, inventory, where AI is already being used in your organization. Just ask your staff openly. You will be very surprised to find out where it has already quietly crept in as a shadow workaround because people are just trying to save time.
I bet. Number 2, define your no-go sensitive data categories and make them entirely non-negotiable from day one.
Number 3, establish a strict, across-the-board fact-check rule for all AI outputs. No exceptions, no matter how confident the AI sounds.
Love that. Number 4, pilot one workflow for 30 days. Don't try to change your entire organization at once. Take something simple like drafting those board packet summaries we talked about earlier. Use AI for a month and see how it actually feels in practice.
Number 5, train your managers first. If your middle managers don't understand the policy, enforcement across the rest of the organization will be chaotic, inconsistent, and ultimately ineffective.
And number 6, maybe the most important administrative step of all, assign one specific owner for AI governance. Do not assign it to a committee of everyone because when everyone owns it, no one actually does the work. And please, do not just dump it on your IT department. Governance is a strategic leadership function, not just a tech support ticket.
That is a crucial point. IT can secure the tool and manage the licenses, but leadership has to dictate the actual application of it within the mission.
Now, if you are listening to all of this and feeling a bit intimidated by the sheer scope of it, take a deep breath. That is a completely normal, rational response to rapid technological change. But good leadership means stepping into that discomfort, creating clarity for your team, and reducing the operational risks so your people can experiment responsibly. And if you need help, you don't have to spin your wheels trying to figure this out from scratch in isolation. CNA has an approach called empowered coaching. It's designed specifically to help nonprofit teams build these exact policies, train their managers, and set up governance processes that are actually practical for your specific size and mission.
It's entirely about building internal capacity without creating a bureaucratic nightmare that slows you down.
Exactly. As we bring this deep dive to a close, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When you look at the recommended reading from these sources, books like Noise by Daniel Kahneman, or The Alignment Problem, a really profound theme emerges about the future of our work.
It really does. We spend so much time currently worrying about how AI is going to change our day-to-day workflows or how it might eventually replace certain administrative tasks. But what it's really doing is much deeper than productivity. It is forcing us, perhaps for the first time in a generation, to explicitly define what makes our judgment, our empathy, and our authenticity uniquely human.
Think about that for a second. In a near future, where we are surrounded by an infinite sea of perfectly predicted, grammatically flawless, instantly generated text, what becomes scarce? What actually retains its value?
Human trust.
It's human trust. It's the messy, beautiful reality of lived context. Your ability to look a community member in the eye, truly understand their unique struggle, and build a genuine, lasting relationship. No algorithm can predict that. Your humanity is about to become your organization's most valuable asset.
That is the ultimate takeaway here. Protect your humanity, govern your tools, and you will be fine.
That's a wrap on this episode of LeadOn. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, we invite you to subscribe and share it with a fellow nonprofit leader. You can find us on Spotify and at leadonpodcast.com. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and lead on.